So the 2 sessions to me is a very, very good reflection of a system that is built to achieve consultation, to achieve cooperation, and to achieve consensus, so that the whole of China's society are all striving towards the same goals. They share the process of defining the goals, they share the process of responsibility for implementing the goals. Well, the main problem with the US system in particular, and with Western democratic politics in general, is that it's the opposite of the Chinese system. I've just described how the Chinese system is essentially based on 3 C's: cooperation, consultation, and consensus. The Western systems are based on 3 C's as well, but the 3 very different C's. They are competition and confrontation and conflict. These are the 2 elements of China's system that can be adopted in part by other countries, and it will work. Use direct elections at the level where they operate on a human scale. Choose the higher bodies from among the people who have a history of achievement and aptitude, and look for building consultative bodies that are properly representative of the widest possible range of society. Because if you do these 2 things, then you will have people who genuinely want to work for the interests of the country, for the interests of the public, for the interests of the people.
Well, I think China has got a very unique and well-developed system of consultative democracy, which means that people can be engaged with the policies of the government at every level in society, and they're being consulted at every level. And I think the notion of consultative democracy is actually very appropriate for the current age, because the main model in the West is one which very frequently leads to disaster. And they are very close to disaster at the moment. That China is very much in favor of global institutions, yes, and global governance, and does everything it can to support them. Well, you see, it fits with China's own sense of history. It fits with the idea of the Middle Kingdom, because you build relationships through the world as a whole, and global governance, as we know it today, is the bringing together of people with shared values and shared purposes, things like the Millennium Development Goals. You know, if you belong to the United Nations, you belong to that mission to save the world. So I think it fits very neatly with Chinese history. And the paradox is, of course, that the United States itself is always very ambivalent about the United Nations. I mean, I know many of my friends in the United States say, United Nations, oh, no, not interested. And sometimes they are, sometimes they are not. They vary, you see. Because, of course, as we know, time and again, the United States is interested in going its own way and forgetting the United Nations.
这几年因着世界的这一个经济的这一种挑战，是每一个国家都受影响，包括马来西亚都受影响。但是如果从这一个西方国家来评论中国的这个论点呢，是完全不能成立。因为当他真正了解中国的这个叫做我们以两会或者是以中国的领导人在做出政策的时候呢，他们是铁下心的，要干就干到底。这一个铁下心和干到底的这一份心呢，其实是西方国家未必有的。
what Egyptians appreciate very much, and I would say others, not only Egyptians, is the pacifist and principled diplomacy of China, in the sense that China is a force of moderation, is a friendly country that seeks to cooperate with others. If you're asking me for an example, I can mention the mediation between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Islamic Republic of Iran. This was something I would say perhaps unexpected, but it was very much welcomed and very successful. And there is hope that China will get much more involved in the solving of problems, especially in an area where problems are almost everywhere. Egypt and China have always called for what we call an equal and orderly multipolar world and inclusive economic globalization, because we are against hegemonic acts and we respect the United Nations Charter, which is the law that all countries must respect, as well as rules of international law. We oppose, I would say, Egypt, China, and all like-minded countries. We oppose the so-called rules-based order, which was, some few try to impose it on the majority. And since the majority did not participate in writing or setting these rules, how can we abide by them? Well, global governance is going to go through a very difficult phase in the coming future. And what we need is to stay together, have stronger relations, and more investment in every sense, not only financial investments, but also in industrial investment and cultural investments and investment in the global sense of cooperation. This is what is needed so that we are linked to each other, and together we can do something about the future of global governance.